Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be talking about setting priorities, and because there's just not enough money to do everything we want. And I'm going to start with a little bit of a shocker that's not like something that I necessarily endorse. It's not scientifically based. It comes from a friend of mine who is a risk analysis for insurance companies. But he said his prediction is that in 100 years, there'll be 1 billion people left on Earth. 1 billion people. So the human race is going to survive. That's good news. The bad news is that there's going to be a lot of shifting, whether it's because of extreme weather, because of coastal inundations, reduction of land areas, because food sources can't be, if the farms can't be moved to new locations quick enough. There's going to be a lot of chaos going on in the next 100 years, and just want to give you that thought just to start with, because this is very serious. And I'm really happy that we're talking about water, which to me means we're talking about adaptation, which means we're talking about how do we protect ourselves and our planet and the animals and the fish. How do we protect ourselves from this doom that seems to be coming? And I like that because all the media, everything about climate change has always been focused on fossil fuels, incredibly important, but it's only half the story, maybe even less than half the story, because the people around this room really need to focus on adaptation. And the basic, and I'm coming from the perspective of a public water utility, and when you look at the funding problem, I know there's a lot of different ways we're looking at innovative ways to fund water, wastewater, stormwater systems, but our budgets, which is really what our revenue needs are, should always be driving the tariffs. The managers get together, they say, these are the things we really need to do, and then what they find out is that the mayor or the politicians come back and say, you can't do that. You can't have a 12% rate increase next year. We'll allow you to have 3% or 6%. And from that, you're pushing down these numbers. And what happens over time, I see it over and over again, is the utility managers stop asking for everything that they really need. And in the city of Philadelphia, the numbers are, just for inflation, is 6%. You need 6% rate increase every year in order to deal with a 3% general rate increase, cost of living increase, but 6% because what we're dealing with is energy costs, chemical costs, and labor. And then you have all the things, all the deferred costs, like all of those deferred costs that are down there that happened over the last 50 years where we haven't been keeping up with our systems, and then all those new costs of new treatment technologies and new regulations that are coming about. So that is really the give and take here with what the real funding problem is on the ground at the utilities. I have this quote here. Sorry, Glenn, I'm going to date you. Back about, this is probably about 30 years ago in Washington, D.C., and I don't know if you showed it on a slide or you said it, but I wrote it down and I've been using it for the last 30 years. It's riskier to continue doing business as usual than it is to change. And I think we can all agree with that, and thank you for that, Glenn. And adapting to climate disruption, which is what we're experiencing now, will require this disruptive change in how we do things, how we think, how we plan, how we design, how we work, how we construct, operate, and fund our work. And the diagram there just shows a point in time. The red point is now, and if we can affect change today, how things can improve, and if we don't, how things are going to drastically decline into the future. This is from Al Gore time. This is a late 1990s U.S. Report came out at the end of their administration. It said natural system assumptions upon which we base all water standards, all permits, all water use and delivery systems may no longer be valid. everything we've been doing because of the change in types and degree of weather that we're getting is influencing and will continue to influence the goals that we've set for ourselves in a different world. And I'm hearing this a lot right now with some programs that we started in Philadelphia in 2011. It was about green infrastructure and planting 10,000 greened acres within a very dense city. And those 10,000 acres, they're now saying, well, what have you done? You spent billions of dollars, and you still have the same amount of overflows of sewage as we had 15 years ago. And you go, well, things have changed. Climate has changed. There's more coming down. So how do you balance all these efforts of things that we've looked at in the past and make it into our next future? But I firmly believe that through our vision, our leadership, our strong collaboration being a key word here, we can adapt our cities and our water systems to this changing climate, and we can redesign the landscape of our cities and the quality of life in our communities. And the way that we did it in Philadelphia and others are doing it is, on the left-hand side, you see all the things that a water utility is typically responsible for, has some level of oversight of. And then on the right-hand side, you see the boss of the water utility manager, who is the mayor, or city council, or someone else like that, and looking at their set of issues. So the question is, which one's right? Who gets the money? Which one do we do first? But how do we do this all together? How do we start to integrate all the needs of a city, including water, including non-water issues, and figure out a way to benefit everybody and get to the end point that you're trying to get to? And for the water sector, what were we trying to do? We're trying to get fishable, swimmable, drinkable, safe, attractive, accessible, affordable, and just water systems. That's natural water systems, there's also man-made systems, and making sure everyone has the right to water. In the US, and I believe it's happening here in Europe too, this concept of one water approach, put together first by the Water Research Foundation, and others have followed suit with this, is about looking at water in all its forms and how it's used throughout a city, and thinking about that in a more integrated, holistic fashion. For Philadelphia, we came up with a program called 10,000 Greened Acres. We called it One Water, One City, Many Places. And the way we broke up our city is into areas of functionality, whether it's communities, transit, rivers and streams, parks, going on down that list. And what can we do in those areas to green the communities, and while doing that, reduce the amount of water overflow going into our rivers and streams? And doing this at a way that also helps the mayor's set of standards and issues, which is dealing with poverty and dealing with social justice issues and creating resilience within your city by spending this money in the right places. And this is Rotterdam on the left and Copenhagen on the right. And you can see in the Rotterdam, I don't know how many of you have seen this, but this is a basketball court that in the middle of a mall that also serves as a stormwater basin. So you have a dual purpose. So now you're starting to think, well, okay, so now the mall, the developers, the athletic committees and the water utilities all working together, and that saves money because now you're leveraging your dollars. On the right is Copenhagen. That's a tennis court that also doubles as a stormwater retention basin. This is a beautiful, beautiful job done in Bangkok, and it's at a college. And what you're looking at is a stormwater retention basin. This is to prevent flooding. And you have green infrastructure along the top, and basically that basin is there to feed water into during large storms and protect the communities. But it has a dual purpose. It also serves as an assembling area for the university. And this is Singapore, which has gotten a lot of renown in the past. And you can see on the top is that's the stormwater basin, full force. and underneath of it is what it looks like for community when it's not raining. And water systems are adapting and expanding their role from service providers to resource stewards, that's keywords, resource stewards, throughout. And other things that are happening in terms of many of the utilities which have vast reservoirs are putting floating solar cells on top of the reservoirs, and that helps the solar become more efficient because you have cool water underneath it, better transition from hot to cold, and it also prevents the evaporative losses of the water. And it's great where land is scarce, where you need to have solar panels, and it helps the water systems who are very much involved in net zero energy. Finally, this is a group that I'm heavily involved with. It's the Global Water Leaders Group. It meets mostly in Europe once a year. I encourage many of you to go to this conference. And it's about the leaders in both the leading countries and those who are still looking to perfect their systems. I chair this group called 70 Leading Utilities of the World. And it's 70 of the most innovative, progressive utility leaders and their utilities. There's a little exam for them to do in order to become a part of this, and it's a group that you're not necessarily the best system, but you're the innovators, you're the progressors, you're thinking about these things, and you want to talk about it and help each other become better and better. And I put small asterisks for, I don't know why I picked Portugal and Spain. So in Portugal, it's we have both Agua de Portugal, and we also have Puerto in Porto. And right here in Madrid, Canal de Isabel has become one of the latest joiners of this group. And with this, we're helping to help the best minds in the water business work with the best minds in the water business to help solve the problems. And last up is my tree. Okay, this is whose tree is this? You all have these blocks and you have trees. And we've in Philadelphia and other cities have taken the concept that these are no longer trees, these are infrastructure. This is infrastructure, you spend capital dollars building these. Underneath, you have this stormwater management system that's clearly owned and the responsibility of the water utility, and the rest of the tree becomes the part of, in Philadelphia, it's called Fairmount Park, but the park system, or whoever takes care of trees, is now taking care of the tree itself, making sure it's pruned, and then you have the residents who are taking care of dog poop, cigarette butts, and anything else that's on the ground, and also the eyes and ears of these trees to call and complain when something's a problem. And so this is just a prime example of how cooperation, collaboration, working together, looking at all the issues, what everybody wants, and putting something together. So thank you.